Christmas is coming and the geese are getting fat. Please put a penny in someone's hat. You could also make a table decoration. And in front of me, I have a very simple table decoration that's made from squares, and it consists of 8 sections. There is another table decoration floating around on the internet which you may have made that has 12 sections. This one's only got 8. So there is a little bit less stitching and cutting out to do. How do you do it? Let me show you. I'm going to begin by taking a piece of paper. The piece of paper needs to be the size that you would like it to be to make your Christmas decoration. Mine, in this case, is 4.5 inches square. Fold the piece of paper in half, making a triangle. Open it out and then bring adjacent sides to touch the center. It forms a kite shape. And remember, you can do this with any size square of paper you like. When you've done that, open up the square and you are going to cut a section off, and the section needs to be at right angles to that center crease. So if you want to be absolutely accurate, if you take one of the rotary cutting templates and put a line on that center crease and simply slide it towards the end there, you can cut that chunk off, either with paper scissors or, as I'm going to do it, with the rotary cutter. This forms your template. Once you've got the template created, take squares of some form of fusible interfacing that is stiff. This is Styleville fix that has a fusing on one side. You could use any of the other proprietor stiffenings. You are then going to use your paper template as a template on the 4.5 inch square. Cut the corner off. So my interfacing is now exactly the same shape as my paper template. Do not discard the paper template, you're going to need that in a minute. Take the fabric that you decided on to use for your Christmas decoration and fuse the fusible side to the fabric, remembering you are fusing it to the wrong side of the material. So simply place the Styleville on the ironing board, lay the fabric on top and fuse it. Once you've done that, cut very roughly round it, leaving about 1/2 inch all the way outside the interfacing. Don't be too mean with it, you can always trim it off afterwards. Once you've done that with one of the fabrics, take the other fabric, which probably will be in a different colour, and cut exactly the same size shape out of that. And you'll need to repeat this 8 times, so you will end up with 8 sections that look a little bit like this. And it's at this stage where you're going to need to do a spot of stitching on the sewing machine. So I've sewn outside the interfacing, sewn fractionally away from it to allow for the depth of the interfacing when I turn it right side out. I've left a gap at this end of my interfacing so I can turn it through the hole. Trim off the fabric on all the stitched sides back to a narrow seam allowance, a decent 1/8 of an inch or a scant 1/4. When you've trimmed it off, be careful that on the actual unstitched side, leave a little bit extra, simply because it makes it much easier to turn the raw edges in if there's a little bit extra fabric to do so. Once you've trimmed off, turn it right side out, pop your fingers inside it, turn it right side out, and then use some form of poking device to give the corners a gentle poke. Something like a knitting needle or a barbecue skewer or a pencil if you must. Just be a little bit careful not to go through the corners of the design, the shape. So there's my knitting needle. Very gently ease the corners out. That's one done. There's the one at the top, and there's the other one. On completion, then simply tuck the excess fabric in here at the base, and it would pay you to hand sew with a few small slip stitches across the gap. What I frequently do then is I will sew round the edge of the shape, just top stitch round it to add a little bit of extra decoration. When you've done that, you're going to need to go back to that paper template, because keep the paper template folded. This is going to be your template for drawing the lines on upon which you're going to stitch. Place the paper template, so you're getting your words in a muddle, on top of your stitched shapes, and draw gently down the sides. And you'll need to repeat this on all 8 sections. So all the sections need to look exactly like this, with drawn lines on either side of the shape. Right, I've now taken 2 of my sections and joined them together on one side. Now, when you do this, do make certain that you are consistent and you join all 8 of them into sets of 2, sewing the same side, in my case, the right-hand side. The other little tip I would suggest is make very certain you put the same colours together. So in this case, I've got the green and the green together. When you come to stitch, you're going to sew down that drawn line, and what I prefer to do is to start in a little bit, reverse to the edge, sew across to the other end and reverse again. So my beginnings and endings of my thread are within the seam. It makes it a little bit stronger. You can trim them off afterwards. The idea is to sew the shapes into sets of 2, and then when you've done the sets of 2, join the sets of 2 into a set of 4, and then simply link the whole lot together, which I'll just do with a couple of pins to show you the end result. So you're joining all the shapes together on those drawn lines. And that basically is it, because once you've joined all 8 together, all you have to do then is take opposite sides of the same shape and simply link them together. And that's where you could link them together and add a bead or something of that nature, as you can see on the one that I have here. So I brought the sides together and linked them together with a bead. When you've done that, if you wish, you can take the other ends here and join those together at the same time. And it makes a really pretty little mat. In the centre there, you could put flowers, you could put one of those electronic candles, you could indeed, if you wanted to, put a real candle. But just be very careful, if you're going to light the real candle, I suggest you put it on a mat or something that is certainly fireproof. So maybe an electronic one of those battery-driven ones might be better. Or perhaps a small posy of flowers. Or you could even put a little mirror in the bottom of it. So that is it. So there you are. Wasn't difficult to make, was it? And of course, now you know the process. You could make it a little bit smaller. You could make it smaller still. You can, in fact, do the same principle with diamonds and indeed with hexagons. And if you want to know a little bit more, how you make this Christmas table mat is actually out of Fans and Fabrications. So the only thing I have to do now is to wish you all a very happy Christmas, and may 2025 be a good year for us all.